Hello and welcome to the NAMI Vermont 1 Hour Lunch and Learn event. My name's Lori Emerson and I'm the Executive Director at the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Vermont. NAMI Vermont is the state chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and we're a statewide nonprofit grassroots volunteer organization comprised of people who live with a mental health condition, family members, and advocates. And as our mission, we provide support groups, educational opportunities, and we advocate for an improved mental health system of care. We are very excited to welcome Katie Wilson and Jane Winterling from the Copeland Center, who will be presenting an introduction to taking action for whole health and well-being. Katie and Jane would like the session to be interactive. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to raise your hand or type them in chat. And we do kindly ask that you remain on mute unless it's time for open discussion. This session is going to be recorded, so just to let you know, if you want to stay off camera. And if you need to use closed captioning, please click the icon on the bottom of your screen. And we would also appreciate your feedback at the end of the session to be able to fill out our evaluation form, which will pop right up as soon as you close your screen. Christina will be sharing links with you in the chat on information that Katie and Jane will cover. And we're going to be adding links to the chat and following up with an email on the resources shared today. Just so you are aware, every single Wednesday we will have a new Lunch and Learn. And if you haven't already done so, please register for all the upcoming sessions. Our next one will be April 1st, Understanding Special Needs Trusts. May 6th, What to Expect from a Crisis Stabilization Stay. And June 3rd, DBT Skills to Manage Big Emotions. So you're welcome to join any of these events. And we really hope that you look at NAMI Vermont and this session as a safe and supportive space where we can have an open and honest conversation about mental health. So please remember to take care of yourself during the session if anything feels triggering for you. And also, there's always 988 if you need support. And now I'd like to introduce the Copeland Center team. Katie Wilson is the Chief Operations Officer at the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery, where she supports organizations in adopting the center's evidence-based peer group model. She leads the widely attended Doors to Wellbeing Peer Specialist webinar series, reaching over 30,000 professionals each year. It's amazing. And frequently presents at national conferences. Her background includes collaborations with Marlborough College's MBA program and the Harry Frank Guggenheim Foundation. She holds a BA from Bennington College and an MS from NYU's Center for Global Affairs, with a focus on international human rights and mental health. Jane Winterling is the director of the Vermont Recovery Education Project at the Copeland Center and a longtime leader in peer advocacy. A founding contributor to the development of RAP, she brings decades of experience from roles with Vermont psychiatric survivors and the Vermont Blueprint for Health. Jane has worked nationally and internationally to advance peer-led approaches, drawing on her lived experience and commitment to collaboration between peers and professionals. She also developed the Copeland Center's Wellness Engagement Training, known as WE, a course focused in strengthening one-to-one and group peer support. Jane is also an international trainer of the Taking Action curriculum. So please join me in welcoming Katie and Jane.
Thank you so much, Lori. It's really a pleasure to be here with friends new and old here in the state of Vermont. So this is really a real treat for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Lori. This is wonderful, and it's wonderful to see people we know and have known for a long time, which is wonderful. And I remember a great psychiatrist who used to say, one of the best things that can happen to you is to be able to grow old with friends and family. And I have to agree, because I feel like some of you have become part of my my family. So welcome. But with that, what we'd like to do is check in. So if you would be willing,
I'm gonna unspotlight us.
yeah, thank you, Katie. Um,
There we go.
Great, perfect. If you could just uh, put in the chat, actually, there's we're I think we could do this without, yeah. So your name, where you're from, and something that you look forward to with the coming of spring. So I'm Jane, and I'm actually from Brattleboro. And given the year that we've had with winter this year, I am really looking forward to those first flowers. You know, the sun hits the windows and warms up the ground. And I'm really looking forward to those snowdrops peeking their heads up uh, as the first sign of spring. So I'm just going to open it up. Um, Anybody who would like to go next? Go ahead, Judy.
So yes, I'm looking forward to spring, to not have all this icy conditions because I get scared walking on ice and snow. So I'm looking forward to being able to go out and hike with my golden retrievers. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great. And Judy's from Brattleboro area too.
Oh, yeah, outside Brattleboro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great.
Guilford.
Thanks, Judy.
Natural segue. I'm Chip Seiler. I'm from Guilford as well. And I think I'm looking forward to going outside without having to get 3 layers of clothing on and a hat and gloves and the big heavy boots. It'll be nice to go out in shorts and a t-shirt again.
Nice. Nice. Thanks, Chip.
And Kristen in the chat shared, I'm from Waterbury and I coach youth softball in the spring and summer, so I'm excited to get started with my team.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Go ahead, Melissa.
There, my name is Melissa Bemis, and I work at the Clara Martin Center. I am from Michigan years ago, but now I'm from Woodsville, New Hampshire, and I'm looking forward to spring because I am actually moving closer to my job this weekend into a new place with my dog, and I am looking forward to taking her for walks and the same thing, not having to worry about falling and not having 6 layers of clothes on to go outside. Great to be here.
Thanks, Melissa, and good luck this weekend. I really feel for you moving this time of year. Great. Who would like to go next?
I can go.
Okay.
So my name is Vicki Delmas. I live in Northfield, right in the middle of everything. And one of my favorite things about spring I didn't appreciate till I moved away and then moved back to Vermont. And my favorite thing is that just 1 to 2 days in the spring when all the trees are ready to leaf out and there's a whole rainbow of different greens on the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
It's so fleeting. You have to catch it at just the right moment, but it's so beautiful. And I missed it so much when I lived in Hawaii.
Yeah. No, thank you, Vicki. And I had forgotten about that. And you're right. It's so fast. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, I can go next.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the spring flowers. I love the warmer weather, getting outside more, and being able to exercise more outside. I'm not a winter fan, so being able to do all those things and connecting with nature.
Nice. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate it.
Um,
Go
I can,
next. Go
yeah,
ahead.
sure. I can go, but I did want to let you know that there are a few comments in the chat as well.
Thank you. We'll get them after you go, Nikki.
Nina. Thank you.
Nina, sorry.
No, it's okay. So I'm from the Williston area, and like everyone else, I am really looking forward to spring and the warmth and just being outside with my pet. Of
Nice. Thank you.
course.
And in the chat box, Cri-
I got it.
okay.
Rael Ray Kaplan, they them. I work at WCMHS from North Carolina, but now in Northfield. I look forward to my garden and having less safety things to worry about in regards to my clients.
Nice.
And Alexis shares, I'm Alexis. I'm in St. Johnsbury. I'm excited to get started being able to hike around without going through 4 feet of snow. Very
Great.
fair.
Yeah. Thank you both.
I can go next. My
Go
name is
ahead.
Phyllis. I'm from Florida. I'm with the NAMI Pinellas affiliate, and I do their support groups. And we've had some pretty cold weather here in Florida lately and everything, but it is returning to the normal sea of it. And I'm happy to get out in their yard in the sunshine and everything and be able to read and swing and stuff like that in my backyard.
Nice. Great. Thanks, Phyllis. When do you return north?
I don't return north. I stay here all the time.
Okay.
I joined the family support group there in Vermont.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Welcome.
glad you could be here, Phyllis. It's always nice to have another NAMI affiliate join.
Yeah, I'm a 30-year one.
Long time. We're
Yep.
always lifers, right? We keep doing this work because we love it.
Yeah, I always said and everything, I enjoy the work and everything because of people like you.
Mm.
Okay. Who would like to go next?
I can go. My name's Christina. I live in Heinsberg, outside of Burlington. And one thing that I'm looking forward to about spring is seeing all the spring ephemeral wildflowers. I always think
Mm,
that's really wonderful. And it's not something that was, I don't know, it didn't impact me that much before I moved to Vermont a few years ago. But since I've lived here, it's been really fun to see.
yeah, great. Thank you, Christina.
So I think I'm the last to go. But if I've mistakenly mistaken that, please feel free to jump in. So Katie Wilson here. I am down in Brattleboro. Jane and I are like kind of neighbors, and we're not too far from Chip and Judy. Um, and so I have to go last because you're all are going to throw me off the call, which is that I love winter. I'm like sad to see it go. I wish it was longer. I wish we had more snow. I wish the whole thing. I love it. More days to skate outside. I wish there was, yeah, more days to do snowshoeing, especially beautiful days like today where it's sunny outside, but also we have snow on the ground. But just to like keep my street cred going here, is that one of the things I've really been enjoying the last couple of weeks, although I know it's kind of coming to an end, is that it's light in the morning, which I really enjoy. Like I'm a real morning person, and kind of really felt that like forcing myself on those really dark days to get up in the morning, and so really appreciate that opportunity to just get a little bit more light before you sit down at your desk in the morning. So really happy about that with spring. It really feels like that's like a big sign for me is kind of how the light seems this time of year.
Great. Thanks, Katie.
All right. Well, as you sort of see, like for us, like a very important part is being able to connect around how do we think for ourselves? How do we talk about wellness? How do we use simple ways to engage our own learning in how we can be connected to each other and how we can connect with ourselves? And that's like a real hallmark of our work and our learning that we put together here. Lori was so kind to share with you a little bit about our backgrounds, but just to make it clear in case it wasn't like I'm a person with lived experience, like that this is something for me that how I've sort of figured out how to manage and like learn through the experiences I've had to be able to be the kind of person I want to be and share that with other people, despite the fact that there's still some like really difficult days out there. Like not just sometimes, like sometimes internally from my own personal emotional feeling, but then also like externally, right? Like I don't know about you, but like a lot of things feel like garbage right now and just like not exactly how I wish they were. And like how do I continue to maintain my well-being, because that's the only thing I have control over when things are emotionally turbulent for me, either inside or out. And so that this has been an exploration in kind of getting connected with taking action for whole health and well-being has really been about like, how do I want to navigate this? What kind of relationships do I want to have? How do I learn to be the kind of supportive person that I am looking for in other people? And it's just given a very broad sense to me about like how I want to show up. And it's through examining these things one at a time that's really helped with that. I often say that, like, for me, I've never had a big learning. All it has been is like tiny little learnings, drip, drip, drip in a cup. Like that's all it's ever been for me. But those like drops all together has been what has created an enormous difference for me in how I experience the world. And so, as we kind of go through this, we'll have an opportunity. We just have a couple of slides just to like help, but we're hoping that folks will jump in like you all did earlier today to connect with us and share with us about some of the learning you have over simple things, because we've really found that that's just so very powerful to our work together. So that's a little bit more about me. And Jane, I don't know if you want to share a little bit more about you and your work
Oh, gee
life.
whiz. That's hard
And
to follow up. Um, but like Katie, I also have lived experience, and I worked in the professional field for years, for a long time. But it was really when I stepped into peer support and peer trainings and education that I really felt like I came home. And as Katie was saying, this work is really so much about how we connect with each other and how we form community. And they're community positive communities. It's communities where we're focused on those drips and how they're filling our cup versus all the things we don't have. We also, it's also one of those things of when I first started this work, I would have to say my self-esteem was pretty low. And so it's been figuring out ways to build my self-esteem and really come to like myself better. And it's not that I'm any more perfect. I'm certainly not, but I'm much kinder, much more forgiving. And I recognize that when those voices in my head start up, that's actually an indicator I'm not doing well. And so I have things I can do to take action at that point. I've also, in 1997, when RAP was developed, the state of Vermont actually got involved in bringing peer education to the state, and they have funded it since 1997 in the form of trainings. And I work for Vermont Psychiatric Survivors, and that was where the Recovery Education Grant started. And of course, Vermont Psychiatric Survivors is no longer an agency, but the state has continued to fund recovery education, and so it's been an amazing journey, both as somebody who's been in recovery and somebody who shares that process with other people. So yeah, I think, go ahead.
Great. Well, with that, I'm just going to share, as I said, we just have a couple of slides. This is not a slide-heavy presentation, but just to keep us all on track. Here we go. Let me just tell you a little bit about the Copeland Center. So we are a national nonprofit that has a few programs here in the state of Vermont. We are a peer-led nonprofit. So like almost everyone who works on our staff, our entire board, we're all folks with lived experience. And that's really important for us because we are very much a values-driven organization. And we do a lot of work with agencies and organizations across the country and around the world to shift things in the mental health system, particularly, although also, as Jane has really taught me over time, is that this is not the sort of work where you can take your head off your body and just assume that that's going to work out. Just giving us the opportunity to share our values-based trainings, our values-based philosophy in how people approach services. We also are running Doris Wellbeing, which is our National Technical Assistance Center. We have the Peer Specialist webinar series that I produce each month, gives a voice to a peer leader across the country every month. So that's one of the things that we do here, as well as do other kinds of technical assistance. Unfortunately, our federal funding for that is running out at the end of this month, but we are hopeful to be able to continue some of our work through other means that way. Our most recent thing, aside from Jane was talking about the Vermont recovery education, is that we also are now implementing the Vermont Peer Credentialing Center for folks that want to become peer support providers. So we are handling the credentialing part, so that includes reviewing applications, making sure people are meeting the requirements, and then providing the exam so that people can then get licensure through the state. So those are a few of the things that we are up to these days. Jane, is there anything else I should share in this section?
I can't think of anything.
All right, well then we're going to just move on to talk more about taking action for whole health and well-being.
So, so who can benefit from taking action? And the thing is that anybody who wants to increase their self-efficacy can benefit. It really, one of the things that I have always been so impressed by is that, often, I talk about oftentimes when we start to struggle, we want a professional to tell us what to do and how to do it. And, especially in mental health, and it comes from a place of kindness and caring, but just really organizing our life. And it really was one of those things where, as we looked at trainings, it was like, how do we take back the power of living our own life? Now, that doesn't mean we don't need professional help, because certainly we do, but that there are a lot of hours in the day and hours in the week where I need to be able to take care of myself. And I want to have a life worth living. So anyone who wants to work toward greater levels of whole health and well-being, as Katie was saying, for a long time, we operated by taking our head off our shoulders and just talking about our head, not really realizing that good mental health is actually good whole health. Mental health is just part of it. It's just normal. And so as we as we understand more and more in our culture and in the world and through science that whole health is really where we want to go, then we start to look at that mental health is part of that. And if we're not taking care of certain things, then our mental health is going to suffer. And anyone who wants to work on personal goals and dreams. So the thing about this is anybody, it's a way to put structure into my day. So I had gotten a really good handle on my mental health issues. And then I started having heart issues. And I needed to begin to put that structure into my day of how was I going to incorporate those heart things that I needed to do along with the mental health things that I had done. So it's creating these structures that support us in our lives. And when I wanted to quit smoking, and I've quit for many years, but it was, how do I create a structure where I can quit and also have a life I want to live that doesn't include smoking? So it really is, taking action is really about how we incorporate those structures into our life. Yeah. So I'll turn it over to you, Katie.
Absolutely. So if we step back just a little bit and talk about this in terms of, taking action as a personal system for ourselves, we write it for ourselves, and we're the people who benefit from our own working on our own well-being. But this is set in this inside a system, right, that maybe isn't necessarily focusing on our strengths. And I'll just say that, like, one of the things that has been the most impactful to me, both professionally and personally, has been focusing on strengths and away from perceived deficits. And that's true in both a personal sense, but also kind of in a systems approach sense. And so I just like to set the idea of taking action for whole health and well-being in this idea of like our strengths-based approach. It's not what our sort of the way in which we approach this is that moving towards the things that are really working for us and not being hung up on if we feel there are other things. You can always address other issues. We often always know that things are difficult for us, like what things are difficult for us, but giving ourselves the space to really approach those things that are our strengths. And so, how this comes about is acknowledging that every individual has a unique set of strengths and abilities so that they can rely on to overcome problems. We're talking about fostering hope and we're talking about building self-efficacy. And like that is what we focus on in this program. It's not about other things that may be being pointed out to us that may or may not be our top priorities. This is about for us creating this system. And what I will say is that the closer you get to perceiving strengths all the time is a lot of those things that are deficits you end up finding out that those are judgments you have, like preconceived notions that that they may not be as important as you thought they were. Um, and you just stop seeing them. And in stopping seeing them, you create an opportunity to see what is really working for people and continuing to drill down on that. And that's really helped me in especially because there have been times in my life where I really didn't feel like I fit in. And that really felt like a deficit to me, rather than understanding that I was bringing tremendous strengths to my life. I was really focused in on those things that made me not fit in. And all I can say is that it was really difficult to be in a life where I felt like I had to change who I was authentically to be able to fit in, and that was the only way I'd be accepted. Only come to find out after all this time being with peers that like I can be who I am, and that's a beautiful thing. And I can accept myself for who I am, and that's a beautiful thing. And so I just the power of this, I really just feel like I cannot emphasize enough because it is such an important part of the process to accept ourselves for who we are and not try to change ourselves based on the messages that come from other things that may or may not be helpful to how we experience life. All right, Jane, I'm going to move on to the next one.
Okay, thanks, Katie. So this is the curriculum for taking action for whole health and well-being. So it starts with talking about how we build our self-esteem. These are what we call the foundational concepts of taking action. Hope, education and research, empowerment and self-determination, which is how do I begin to take responsibility for my own wellness? And I do that in a way that's self-determined. So I get to decide how I want to do that. And then self-advocacy. Building a strong support system is really important because we all need support. Community inclusion. How do I involve myself in my community? The research all says to be well, you need to be involved in your community. How do I take care of myself? How do I show myself self-compassion when, I call them the demons in my head are just driving me nuts. They can be so cruel. How do I show myself compassion? And how do I connect with other people? So these are all pieces of that core curriculum that we talk about. And what I'd like to do is just do a little activity with you. And hope for me was one of those things when I started on this path, I did not have any, life was not about hope. Life was about duty and chores and taking care of what needed to be taken care of. And, I would listen to these folks talk about hope and it would just tick me off. But I wanted what they had. And so I realized one day that for me, hope was not going to be hope had to be a choice. For other people, they just seem to have it. I hate their guts. I'm being okay. But for me, hope was going to have to be a choice, and I was going to have to work at it all the time. So the question is, and if you could just put it in the the chat box, there are two of them. So and we'll take a couple minutes. What does hope mean to you? And where do you find hope?
Well, I can share a couple of things that I've learned. The first is that for me, hope is a journey, not a destination. That it requires me to do practices. Like I have to practice, or else, it's not just like a natural state for me, which felt very relatable in your story, Jane. It's just like, yeah, there are things I have to have in place to continue to feel hopeful, despite like some difficult outcomes. And so in order to maintain that, there are things I need to do to like keep myself on track to be like, one thing that I've really come to realize is that like as a leader, one can't afford to be cynical. And so, because of that, it's really important to me to be able to maintain kind of a practice of hope.
Yeah. And I have to say, just in sharing my, thank you, Katie, journey was that I realized that hope has a lot to do with a loss of faith, faith in myself, faith in my friends, family, community. And so I really needed to find things that restored my faith. And I found it in nature, being around water, listening to water, the wind moving through the trees. There's something about that that just restores not only my faith, but my hope. Um, watching, yeah. And I'm sure many of you, because we live in Vermont, know exactly what I'm talking about. And so I'm going to,
There are a couple in the chat. Would you like me to read them?
sure.
So Christina shared, to me, hope is deep understanding and belief that things can get better and I can make them better in some way. And then
Nice.
Judy shared, from the journey to wellness and health for myself and others has taught me to never give up hope. And Chip shared, hope is my belief. Hold on. Hope is my belief that things will be better someday and that we are and than they are today. It can take some work and effort to get them there, and sometimes it comes on its own. And Lori shared, hope keeps me going to take one step at a time. I find through others who struggle and still find positivity in despite of the struggle. And Alexis shares, hope for me means a possible future with less struggle. For for me, I find hope in myself by being better than I was. I find hope in my kids when they make changes and have realizations for the better. And Vicky shares, for me, hope is change. And if there is one constant in the world, it's change. I find the opportunity for change all around and it's how I choose to interact and impact changes that are happening.
Wow. Thank you. That's amazing. And why would we talk about hope? We talk about hope because I think it's a very common thing to kind of sometimes not feel very hopeful. And it's important to recognize and have thought about what brings you hope in your life. And I remember this so vividly. My father was dying of cancer. And of course, my whole family was struggling with it. And looking out the window and thinking, the difference between me and my siblings is I can choose to be hopeful and that there's, this, I don't have to let this take me down to the depths of despair. Which was so that was one of the times that I really needed hope and I needed to be able to hang on to it because things were hard. But yeah, it's an important thing to kind of understand about hope. Anybody want to add anything or? Okay, so with that, I'll turn it over to you, Katie.
Great. So Jane sort of took us through some of these foundational concepts that we use, and all of those are kind of research-based in terms of what we know really supports people when they're struggling. So the curriculum goes through all of those in detail, similarly to how we just talked about hope, with activities and self-reflection and all those sorts of things, just giving us the opportunity to connect those together. The next thing that we talk about within taking action for whole health and well-being is, oh shoot, the wellness toolbox. Oh wait, I'm not sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. That will be very helpful. So is the wellness toolbox. Here we go. Um, and so the Wellness Toolbox is a place where we're able to bring together all the things that for us really support our well-being or make us feel better if we're not feeling as well as we want to. They empower us to take action on our own behalf. They're unique to us, so what works for me may or may not work for you, although you can get a lot of good ideas from each other. These are the things that are like simple, safe, and accessible to us. So things like going to the library or doing different kinds of art or cooking a good meal, maybe staying hydrated. Like there are just many, many things that can be in this section. And it's all going to be really individual to like what works personally for you. And one thing that we've learned is that while we'll all start where we're at, what often works best is just have an abundance of choices because we may feel like we want to use different things at different times. So we explore all the possible things that we can do to stay well and help ourselves feel better if we are feeling badly. And these components are what make up the wellness toolbox. So I'm going to stop sharing, and just see if folks have identified anything in your own life that really connects for you that's like a wellness tool, maybe something that always works. Um, Jane mentioned something about that I think is probably one of the reasons that many of us stay in the state of Vermont, which is being out in nature, right? Like I just love being out in the woods. I love pine cones. Like that is a place where no matter what else is going on for me, I often feel like my best and most like authentic self. And so for me, that's a big one. But there are also little things that I do. Like I am a coffee fiend. I really, really enjoy a good cup of coffee, whether that's with other people or with myself. And just like, and then like kind of in like the creative arts, I really enjoyed making watercolors. Like I'm not any good at it, but like I just really like the opportunity to kind of like work with my hands and that sort of thing. So those are a few of mine, and I'm going to open it up if anyone has something that they would be willing to share about something that you use as a wellness tool. Go ahead, Lori.
Um, I love gardening, getting my hands in the dirt, getting regrounding myself and being out in the sunshine. That vitamin D always helps me. And then listening to the waves come in, being by the water.
Mm,
And what I found actually over this winter, puzzles takes my
mm,
mind off everything. So if you need to be distracted, puzzles.
Yeah, thanks so much for those,
Yeah.
Lori. It's really great.
mhm.
Um, yeah, we have a bunch of puzzlers here that we work with, and it's one of my favorites too, especially in the winter.
Hmm.
Thanks so much for sharing. We'll go Chip and then Judy.
Yeah, Lori stole a couple of mine, but they're worth I think they're worth repeating and doubling up on. That's being around water. You see the picture behind Judy. That's the water I would be thinking about or in or on top of if I could be. And music has always been um, beneficial for me, whether I
Mhm.
try to make it, which like your watercoloring, I'm not terribly good at it, but um, there's something very relaxing about just making even one note on a ukulele. You play it nice and clean, and it's just very soothing. Or listening to other music. There's the belief that Mozart's music is somehow special. I don't think it is. I think it's just very well done. But or my family, listening to their musical endeavors.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Chip. There really is nothing like being live with music. Like we're also, like listening, I love listening to the radio and songs and things like that, but just there's something so very special about either making music yourself or seeing someone else make music. It's like a different thing entirely. Thanks so much for sharing about that. And then Judy, we'll go over to you. I did see that you sent me a private message, which I think was for everyone, but I have a feeling you're going to speak about it. So.
Yeah, I'm one of the things that makes me happy is doing things for other people. And I do a ton of sewing and quilting over COVID. I helped coordinate mask making, and so where other people were home bored, I was just busy all the time. And so I'm not a sit around person. I'm somebody that stays busy. And like everybody else said, getting your hands in the dirt, working in the garden in the spring is wonderful. And getting out with my dogs and the water behind me. I'm a water person. I actually have a degree in marine biology. And so just being near water, just looking out, our cabin, we just look right out at that. It just gives me such joy and pleasure just to look out at the water.
Mm,
Yeah. Thanks so much,
wonderful.
Judy. And I know that it's a pretty common experience that a lot of us find such power in our own lives through service to others and volunteering and things like that, and just being available for other people. Um, so I really appreciate you sharing about that as well. Especially if, like for me, sometimes I struggle with connection. And so like that can be a real place where I can feel like I'm making a big difference. Even though like I don't know exactly how kind of thing, you know? So really appreciate your sharing and can't forget those golden retrievers. That's for sure. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Yeah. I have a garden here in Florida and everything, and it's mostly a vegetable garden and herbs and stuff and everything, and I do a lot of cooking and everything. And I have a few neighbors here that are elderly, older than I am, and I'm old enough already. And I also like to visit International Clubhouse. My my loved one and everything goes to the clubhouse and everything here. And it just seems and everything, it just brightens my day to be able to talk to those people and everything that are at the clubhouse.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Phyllis.
Yeah. Laurie,
Yeah.
did you get my message?
I did, Phyllis. Thank you.
Okay. Might want to share that and everything. That's this evening.
Mm-hmm.
And Marjorie put in the chat box, spending time with those I love, especially kids, being creative, music, art, crafts, knitting, new adventures, doing what I can to improve the lives of others.
Yeah, thanks for that as well. Well, as you can see, there are just like many, many different things that we're engaged in. And you know, one thing I found a lot of inspiration in is seeing how other people navigate their lives, because it wasn't always obvious to me about how I should be doing my own. So being able to share these things with each other can just be so powerful in seeing if there are things that resonate, and if not, that's okay. But it just gives us the opportunity to make those connections and expand our toolboxes potentially. So it's really terrific. But I think because of time, Jane, I'm going to switch us over to our next slide, which is going to go through action planning for prevention and recovery.
Sounds good. Okay. So these are the different parts. And it starts with a daily maintenance plan. So things I need to do every day to maintain my wellness. There are 4 parts to this daily maintenance plan. Things I need to do every day to stay well, things I might need to do to stay well, and hopes and dreams. What am I forgetting, Katie?
You got them all 4. What I'm
Did I
like
get
when
them?
I'm well, things I
Okay,
need to do every day, things I might need to do, and hopes and dreams.
right. Okay, good. Got away from myself. And the hopes and dreams is, I think, an especially important piece of this because it's like if I were well, what would my life look like? Sometimes we get so lost in not being well that it's really hard to think about what would my life look like if I were well? And that oftentimes is a place where we can build our hopes and dreams. You want to take the next one?
Yeah, and so then the next 3 kind of fall into what we sometimes call like facing difficulties sort of thing. So it starts with triggers, which are external events or circumstances that when they occur to us, make us feel unwell. No one gets away from having triggers, like even though we wish we could, something that everyone has, no matter kind of how we've been defined clinically. And additionally, we create action plans for that. So if we know something's going to come up or we know something is particularly difficult for us, we have the opportunity to create something around that. The next section is early warning signs, and those are the subtle internal signs that things may not be going well or that we need to take action in our own regard. For some of us, those things are very physical, which is one of the great parts about taking action for whole health and well-being, is that sometimes things that are like going on for us with our mental health may also have things to do with our physical health. And sometimes we feel physical health symptoms, maybe even connected to our mental health. And so, for me, a few of these things is I can start to become very impatient, or sometimes I'm very thirsty. Sometimes my heart will be racing, but these are like subtle internal signs that like only I myself can like sort of identify for myself and sort of feel for myself. And again, we have the opportunity to create action plans around that. And then when things are breaking down, we are talking about a time where things may be more serious, maybe edging closer to crisis, but we still have the opportunity to do things in our own regard. And for this section, it may be about kind of intensity or how frequently something's happening, something that is just like a bit above, having triggers or having early warning signs. And at this point, we want to create action plans that are just more directive, maybe fewer choices that help us figure out if we can do something to sort of stay more on track. With this action planning part for both triggers, early warning signs, and when things are breaking down, we have the opportunity to make those individualized things that will work for us, try things out around those things. And a lot of times we'll pull those from our wellness toolbox, from things that we know make us feel better when we're not feeling as well, or things that we know that support our wellness. All right, Jane, I think that I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay. So the next is crisis planning. And, crisis planning, when we first started this, it was kind of a boilerplate crisis plan that everybody used. And it really has been in working with people and talking to people about crisis that we've really come to understand some things. And I know for me, doing some training with elders, it was profound because, they thought I was a kid, and here I was in my 60s. But they said, you don't know where crisis is coming from. Um, and I realized that how true that was, is we can create these crisis plans as if, it's going to be a mental health issue. But it could be our home was just flooded, or I fell and broke a hip, or God, I have Alzheimer's, or I'm getting a little demented. But these things are going to have a profound impact on our life. And so one of the things we talk about is, who am I going to call? And to be able to have a conversation with someone, like I with my kids or family, and be able to say, would you be willing to be there if things kind of fall apart, if I'm in crisis? And to know that there are people I can call on is incredibly helpful. And then some things that I might need for them to do would also be helpful. So that crisis planning is actually normal. Everybody has them. Even, when the Office of Emergency Preparedness in Vermont went underwater, and they were doing the whole state. It had that huge flooding, Hurricane Irene. Out of the back of the coffee shop, the servers were down. that was a crisis plan that didn't work, but crisis plans are normal. Everybody goes through crisis. There are many different kinds of crisis. And so, oftentimes those old crisis plans that we did for mental health were just so full of shame and blame and failure. And to be able to realize that crisis is something that's normal, and that we do the best we can to help ourselves when we're in crisis, and that we have people around us, which is why that support system is so powerful, is part of the crisis planning that we do now. Do you want to take advanced directives, or do you want me to just continue on?
I'll just quickly, and then we can do the next slide, and I think that will be our time. So we also have a piece on advanced directives. We're big believers in that we need to do whatever we can to protect our rights, and that's something that we can do ahead of time to ensure that we're getting the care that we want and need. And then we also have an opportunity to write a post-crisis plan. And as you can see, it's sort of a circular motion because it's the sort of thing that all the different pieces inform the other ones. And so if we go through crisis, we were post-crisis plan, we may need to adjust things in our other sections of it. But it gives you an idea about what like all the different topics that we cover sort of in the action planning and prevention and recovery section. But with that, I'm going to move to our next slide.
Okay. So, action plan for prevention and recovery is easy to develop and easy to use. And yeah, it's not about making something difficult. It's making something that's user friendly. It's individualized. We develop our plan for ourselves. No one else can do it for us. However, we can reach out to others for assistance and support. Yeah, I really wanted to make a plan for my daughter. Not so much. And I know a couple of you are smiling who know about this. We can't do it for other people. We can only do it for ourselves. It improves our ability to communicate effectively with our family members and healthcare providers. And that's the thing about organizing ourselves and having a bit of a structure, is it really increases our ability to communicate. That's been something that people have talked about over and over and over again. Finally, my family understands what I'm trying to tell them. It directly addresses the feelings, behaviors, circumstances most troubling to us with action plans. It renews our sense of hope that things will get better and we have control of our life and the way we feel. Now, last thing I want to say about this is that we do it in groups, and the number of people who said, yeah, I went and bought the book, but I couldn't make it make sense to me. It really is in the way that we connect with each other, the communities that we build. People become friends and stay friends for years from doing this sort of thing, and support each other. Once, so the group format is incredibly important. And you guys know this at NAMI because you have the family support groups, that it really is in the community, in the coming together and sharing your knowledge and information and experience is where the power is. And it's the same thing for action planning for prevention and recovery. So with that,
yeah, so we didn't have a lot of time to ask questions, but Jane and I are around. We're here in the States, so feel free to take our information here. But we would just love to hear in this just last minute we have, maybe folks can share in the chat something you're taking away from this session and what you'll do for your wellness. But Chip, I see your hands up, so I'm going to stop sharing so we can see each other. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to hark back to one of your earlier slides where you had the comparison between being told you're ill and focusing on all of those things versus focusing on your strengths and stuff. I can see where that certainly would apply to a peer. But I want to point out it also is very important for the families to understand that the support group around that peer to know that stop focusing on what your loved one is doing wrong or suffering from, and instead look at what they're doing right. Oh yeah,
It
he had
changes
trouble getting to work
everything.
last week, but he did boom, 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 7 other things well. And it begins to turn the whole stigma thing around and maybe even begin to get some doctors thinking that way. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
Some way
thanks
to
so much
take
for
it.
sharing that.
Yep.
All right. Well, I see we are at our very last minute, and Lori, you may have a few things to share. I'm just going to drop our email addresses in the chat. So please feel free to stay in touch with us.
Well, thank you so much, Katie and Jane, and helping to inspire us to take these preventative approaches and looking at our toolkit because we all do have things, but when you're in that moment, it just goes out the window, right? And, this really helps, I think, inspire more hope in us and doing all those things again and reconnecting with people. And I want to thank everybody who's here today for this Lunch and Learn. We have 3 more coming up, and we're hoping that you will attend those as well in April, May, and June. So, what's going to happen is we want your feedback so that we can keep improving these sessions. And, people have given their feedback before, so it's helping us to make this better. So, an evaluation form will pop up as soon as you leave, and I'm going to share that feedback with Katie and Jane. And we'll also share the recording with everybody and put it on our YouTube channel so that more people can get this learning who weren't able to attend today.
Thank you
Thank you
all so
so
much for
much, Laura.
coming. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
thanks, Jane. Thanks, Katie.
All right.